We have a lot of big children in our society today who lack maturity. And the fruits of maturity are wisdom, integrity, and the confidence to be transparent and honest. And there's no metrics within our society that installs those things into our ways of being. For Black people, it shows up as a part of your religion. It's supposed to be a part of your culture. You may or may not get these particular lessons that will contribute to your development into adulthood. We meet a lot of people. It doesn't matter if you can copy and paste and regurgitate, which is what happens when you go through the academic space, unless you learn to critically think. And then once you learn to critically think, what tools are you using to comb through that information? Because the master's tools will never dismantle the master's house. So even if you know how to critically think, if you don't have a faculty that processes that information, you're going to still come out with immaturity. And because our society has actually encouraged this immaturity, because there's exploitation inside of it. If you're immature, if you're not reasoning, if you're not taking your time to make responsible decisions, if you're not making adult processes as far as how you engage with other people, communicate, make decisions, then you're likely to continue to be, there's a window for your exploit. And that's basically what happens, because there's a space for new business. There's several things that are happening simultaneously, and our lack of maturity is the reason why we continue to get caught up in these sinkholes. So the takeaway is you really want to be developing wisdom, and you want to be able to use that wisdom. You want to be able to develop integrity. You want to be able to stand in front of people while they're disliking you, okay, which is what I say, you don't want to walk through my shoes. You're going to have to be disliked to do the right thing, because the right thing in society today is the wrong thing. And people are uncomfortable with truth. They're uncomfortable with right and upright and there's no gray area for what's right. So as you mature, you want to get that. You want to get that integrity piece nailed down. And you want to get that confidence that comes across in humility, but confidently, transparent, and in integrity, and just being very authentic. And these things come out of the journey of becoming mature. And I realize that so many of us put on these costumes and we can copy and paste and we get our buttons and ribbons and clap it up from the Matrix, and it mistakes, and you get like a false sense of your own importance. And we believe that we've achieved, especially since we can get stuff. You know, Dr. Umar talks about, on one of his videos, he spoke about, we get the symbols of worthiness, but we don't really have worth. But we get the symbols of status and worth. So if we have these things, people are mistaken because they're big. You're a big person. You look at yourself, you see a reflection of a big human being looking back at you, but the way you talk, communicate, engage with relationships, and your lack of integrity demonstrates that you are immature. You're actually showing up like a 6-year-old. Dr. So-and-so. How many letters, how many alphabets behind your name, how many bells and whistles and clap it up since you have. Don't mistake that for maturation. Don't mistake that for growing up. Don't mistake that for being a viable contributor to the group, to the social landscape of being in contribution to the whole. Those are not. Those are the things that make some sense, but for an African, it's nonsense. Because for us, there's specific faculties that we should actually have gained in order to enhance or fortify ourselves, which is why I say African fortified. We should be fortifying ourselves. The matrix, the system, the circumstances are not going to give us these particular faculties that we actually need in order to support ourselves. So African, I'm going to need you to mature. I'm going to need you to be able to metrically catalog, like through numbers, KPIs. I'm going to need you to catalog your maturation. And if there's things and questions that are popping up in your head, I don't care if you're 60 years old. If there are questions that are popping up in your mind about who you are, your being, and your interaction with this social landscape, and you don't have answers, you should be doing research. Like spending less time TikToking and twerking, right? Or whatever you do in your pastime that does not contribute to your fortification. You want to be being fortified. You want to be gaining fortification through the gaining of knowledge and then the application of that knowledge, because only applied knowledge is powerful. How did I get here? This is how I got here. How did I do the things I do? This is how I do it. I did the work. This is the work. I don't know what people be talking about. I don't know what them people be talking about, and they got a nice shtick, a nice pizzazz and shadang and all of that stuff they got. I know they got it going on, and I know it's alluring, but it's alluring to you because you haven't matured. Because you haven't refined your vision. You haven't refined your taste. It didn't happen. So it's easy to entertain a child with a little shazam and pizzazz. It's easy. And this is why they get you and they beguile you and they cajole you and they seductively bring you into this foolishness. And you enjoy it. I don't offer any of those things. So I get like shade, cold shoulder, like funky, the funky. This is the world that I live in. Not yesterday. For those of you, may not know me personally, but what you're getting from me right now, this is how I show up in the world. Real life, real love, real peace, real contributing, real genteel most of the time, right? This is how I show up in the world. And this is what upsets people. This is what's upsetting them because they're not there. They haven't developed. They haven't matured. They haven't gained these faculties for their own development. And then they stand next to me as a litmus test and try to measure themselves and come up short. And boy, that make them real mad. So this is why I continue to put this work. Because if we can get more people doing it, if we can get to that critical mass, then I won't have to deal with people feeling small because they haven't got there. But you know what? Approach the line as an apprentice. Because I want you to be very clear, you don't know where I come from. Very meager, humble beginnings. All of these kinds of circumstances knee deep in mud. Yeah, it was a journey. I wasn't born here. It's a journey of maturation, and it's a journey of self-motivation. I intended to achieve it. I intended to develop it. And I did every day, little bits and pieces. There were times when there were 15 parts of my personal development working at one time, 25 pieces of my professional development working at one time, while being a parent, while dealing with custody battle or whatever was going on in my life at that time, roommates, homelessness, moving to another state, all the things. I'm just saying all the things, right? Because when you come into this social landscape and there are challenges, when you come into the social landscape, you have to build out of those things. Many of us as African people, as black people, we're living in a circumstance and it's generational. When we say that, what does that actually mean? If it's generational, then yes. My grandmother migrated to New York, up north, at 20, with a child, then had 2 more while she was here. Then she lived within a 12-block radius for the next 60 years of her life. Within a 12-block radius. Every now and again, she would go up, down south to visit grandparents. I'm just saying it's a process of maturation. It doesn't happen in a vacuum. It doesn't happen all at once. And you have the intention for it to happen. And because of the way that society has been trained to be, like animals. Remember, society is foundation on the theory of evolution. So it is believed that people are animals. So people are trained the way animals are trained. And through repetition, you have developed some maladaptive bad habits that make sense, but is African nonsense. That's just the facts. And I didn't figure that out yesterday. I knew that at 22. At 22, I knew that as a culture and community, we had developed maladaptive behaviors and habits that work against our best interests. So I don't want to join the crowd. I don't want to be a parasite in society since I see all these various people being parasites in varying degrees in society. So I didn't want to be that person. I didn't realize I was going to grow so much to obsolete myself. So now my only crusade is to try to get some more people on deck and give you some real stats so that you understand what it actually looks like. So that fugazi that they've been passing you and you've been sliding through with the little, get by with the little half-ass, the little subpar that you've been getting by with, know that that's not it. Know that you actually have real work. Salbona African, I see you. And namaste to divine, and me honors and respect to divine. And we here stand for the ascending of the African soul and the opening of the African spirit. Peace and blessings.